Have you ever looked out at the ocean and thought, man, what would it take to actually start a farm out there? Well, today we're doing just that. We're going to create a blueprint for turning a little patch of the sea into a productive and, sustainable shellfish farm.
So, what does it really take to build a farm in the sea? It's definitely not as simple as just finding a spot and chucking some shells in the water. No, it's a process with smart, totally manageable steps. We're going to walk through everything from picking that perfect patch of ocean all the way to getting your harvest to a happy customer.
All right, here's our game plan. We've got it broken down into 4 key stages. First up, we're laying the foundation for your farm. Then, we'll talk about gathering your tools and seed. After that, we dive into the day-to-day of actually bringing the farm to life. And finally, the best part, from harvest to market. So, let's get into it.
Okay, first things first, your farm's foundation. This is all about picking the right spot and the right method. And honestly, the decisions you make right here, right now, are going to set the stage for your entire operation. Getting this right is absolutely crucial.
You know the saying in real estate, location, location, location. Well, it's 100% true for ocean farming too. Get this, a single adult oyster can filter up to 50 gallons of water a day. They literally are what they eat, so clean, uncontaminated water, non-negotiable. You also need the right salinity, a steady tidal flow bringing in nutrients, and the right depth. And of course, you've got to deal with permits and zoning. Do your homework here. Trust me, it will pay off big time.
All right, so now you've hit your first big fork in the road. How are you actually going to grow these things? On one hand, you've got bottom culture. It's kind of like free-range farming on the seabed. It's simpler, sure, but your crop is basically an open buffet for predators like crabs. The other option is off-bottom culture, where you keep them protected in floating bags or cages. It's more work, more gear, but you get cleaner, healthier, and safer shellfish.
And hey, if you're working in deeper water, you'll probably be looking at raft or longline cultures. This is where you can really pack them in. Think of it like vertical farming, but for the ocean, hanging mussels and oysters from ropes. It's a super efficient way to do high-density farming.
Okay, let's move on to section 2. You've got your location, you've picked your method. Now what? It's time for gathering your tools. That means getting all the right equipment and, maybe most importantly, sourcing your baby shellfish, which in the biz, they call seed.
The plan here is pretty straightforward. First, you get your equipment. Ropes, trays, anchors, and definitely some tools to monitor the water quality. Second, and this is a big one, you source your seed. You've got to find those juvenile shellfish from a reputable, certified hatchery.
And I really can't stress this enough. Starting with healthy, disease-free seed from a hatchery you trust, well, it's like planting a healthy sapling instead of a weak one. It gives your entire farm the best possible shot at thriving and saves you so many headaches down the road. Whatever you do, don't cut corners here. And now for part 3, bringing the farm to life. You've got the location, the gear, and the seed. This is where the real, ongoing work of a farmer truly begins. We're talking planting, monitoring, and all that regular maintenance. The initial planting is actually the easy part. If you're doing bottom culture, you just kind of scatter the seed over the seabed. For off-bottom methods, you'll carefully place your seed into their new homes, those bags and trays, and just make sure they've got enough room to grow. But farming is not a set-it-and-forget-it kind of deal. You'll be doing regular checks on water quality, things like temperature and salinity. You'll need to keep a close eye on your stock, looking for any signs of disease. If you spot a sick one, you get it out of there, fast, so it doesn't spread. And you'll be constantly cleaning your gear to prevent something called biofouling.
So what the heck is biofouling? Well, it's basically just the gunk that builds up. Algae, barnacles, all that marine life that decides to make a home on your gear. If you let it get out of control, it can actually block water flow and food from getting to your shellfish, which seriously slows down their growth. So yeah, keeping your equipment clean is a must. All right, let's move to our final section, and it's the one everybody's been waiting for. From harvest to market. This is where all that planning, all that investment, and all that hard work finally pays off.
Now, this part requires a good dose of patience. From the time they're tiny little seeds to when they're big enough for the market, you're looking at about 12 to 24 months. It's definitely a long game, but believe me, the reward is worth the wait. So when that day finally comes, harvesting can be as simple as using some rakes and nets if you have a small-scale farm. But of course, for bigger operations, you're going to want more efficient mechanical equipment to handle all that volume. And once you've got your beautiful harvest, where does it all go? Well, you've got a few different paths to profit. You could sell directly to people who love fresh shellfish, maybe set up a stall at a local market, build relationships with chefs at local restaurants, or even work with wholesalers to move bigger quantities. So, what's the big takeaway here? What's the secret sauce? A thriving shellfish farm isn't about one single thing. It really boils down to the diligent, consistent management of three main pillars: the quality of your water, the health of your stock, and making sure you're following all the rules.
And that brings us to one last thought. We've just walked through all the practical steps of how to build a farm. But let's zoom out for a second. When you remember that these shellfish are constantly filtering and cleaning the very water they live in, it really makes you wonder, could one small, well-run farm in the water actually make a big difference for our planet? That's something to think about.
Want to raise healthy, profitable shellfish without beginner mistakes? Get How to Raise Shellfish by Gerard, your step-by-step guide to successful shellfish farming. Link below.